One thing that I want people to understand is that God calls us to amazing places.
Right.
Where does anxiety come from? Anxiety comes from this worry for the future.
Oh yeah.
I would like, for you to tell the audience, like, what you took in terms of steps to help you walk out of that moment where you were crying in the living room. You good, bro?
Yes.
Having anxiety.
Prior to this, guys, I was having anxiety. Nah, here we go, man.
Welcome to the Platform Podcast. My name's Israel.
And I'm Branco. And shit. Welcome back to the Platform Podcast, guys. My name is Branco, and with me always is Israel.
Hey, all. So today we're going to talk about anxiety and keeping things in. And we just want to encourage people, kids in their teens, in their early 20s, or even in their late 40s, it doesn't matter. We all go through things that pertain to anxiety in some way, shape, or form, that relate to keeping things in. Today, I think that there's a very huge struggle with communication in general, dude.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to speak to. In particular, I want to talk about, I had lunch with some friends, and we were talking about growing up. And dude, it brought like all these awesome, memories and nostalgia. Talking with homies. Dude, I've been friends with this guy 20 years, bro.
Oh, wow.
Crazy, dude.
So you guys went down memory lane.
Bro, big time. We used to go on mission trips. We went to school together.
Interesting, bro. I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
I did a lot of mission trips with my church before Abundant.
Okay.
And we went to Colorado, Puerto Rico,
Awesome.
the Navajo Nation, and dude, intense times.
Wow. That's cool, man.
It's crazy how what you do as a teen really does echo into what you do later on as an adult, I would say.
I agree, man. That's for sure. For sure.
And
you just took me back. I started thinking.
I know, dude. You just started going back. But through all that, I always had this capacity for leadership that I honed into really early on in my life.
Okay.
And I'm like, hey, I enjoy leading people. I enjoy helping others.
Mm-hmm.
And with that came a lot of expectations, bro. People started to see, hey, I can give this guy responsibility and he'll run with it. I think what ended up happening, and we were talking about this at this lunch, was that I grew up too quick.
Okay.
And I started setting expectations on myself that weren't healthy. And so I ended up later on, going to college,
Mm-hmm.
and I was burnt out, dude.
Okay.
I was extremely burnt out because I grew up in my teens leading other people.
Okay.
And not taking the time to be led,
So where did that first taste of pressure come from? Can you remember a time where you first felt it? As a teen, maybe as a kid, where you felt that pressure, like, oh my gosh, I better do this because it's important to this person, but never really checked if it was important for you.
That's a great question, yeah. I think that's the question in terms of expectations, like, where is it coming from, right?
Right.
And for me, it's crazy, dude, because I don't think it came from anyone but from me. In the sense that, yeah, dude, like, I think that...
You're just wired like that.
Yeah, but the thing was that there were some things happening in my family,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to set the example.
Got it.
And so much so that I was probably overstepping that role.
Okay.
I was a kid.
Right.
It was meant for me to grow, to learn, to have fun.
Right.
And I started putting these unrealistic expectations on myself. I think that's when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because of things that were happening at home, I started to sense like, oh man, I gotta step up. And that was not right,
I mean, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure for a teen,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where all you really have to be worrying about is, getting good grades, just being the best son you can be.
Mm-hmm.
You have a sibling,
Yes,
sister, so
I
being
do.
the best brother.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Not all
something
that
else.
deep stuff. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And it's crazy because we did talk about your daughter, right? And I don't know if you're seeing like how I've made that connection very much.
Yeah.
Because the same thing happens with your daughter, right? Very, very high capacity.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we were talking like, what does she want? Making sure that she has the freedom to just choose anything.
Correct.
Without any expectations.
Right. Without that
negative
thought,
expectations.
or without that thought of,
yes,
well, mom and dad don't want this for me, so I guess I gotta go back to that. So what did that cause you eventually? What did it get to?
Dude, and that's what I wanted to lead into actually, was it ended up happening that, okay, expectations, gotta meet them, right?
Yeah.
And it stops being living, and it starts turning into kind of a frustration, like, or like a pressure that shouldn't be there.
Correct.
One day I woke up and I'm like in this incredible school in New York, and I had like this imposter syndrome. I had like this, like, what am I even doing here?
Right.
Because I was just reaching for the next goal,
Right.
And the amazing thing, bro, and that one thing that I want people to understand is that God calls us to amazing places.
Right.
And it doesn't really even matter what your capacities, what your weaknesses or strengths are. If you put your trust in God, like, He's gonna put you in places you never expected.
That's awesome, man.
And I was not taking it that way. I was
Yeah.
taking it more like, oh, I put myself here by accident.
Yeah.
You're
I just going through the motions.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, I'm done with that. What's next?
What's next? Yes.
Just kind of dead type of weight, no?
And so let's break it down, right? Someone growing up right now, what you need to think about is, what am I passionate about? What am I good at?
Yeah.
Am I putting all of that stuff in God's hands firstly?
First and foremost, for sure.
First and foremost. Yeah. I believe that's what it is, bro.
Yeah.
Would you, and turning it over to your story,
yeah,
what do you think you were thinking, during your late teens, early 20s, in terms of expectations? How are you managing that?
I grew up a little different from you, from what
Right.
I can see or
Yeah.
hear about, right? Not
Yeah.
see. But you kind of painted the good picture, so I could kind of see that.
Mm-hmm.
So my parents were very big disciplinarians.
Mm-hmm.
Be respectful, say yes please, no sir, yes ma'am. I grew up speaking Spanish till I was 10 years old, and I didn't learn English till I was 10. But so, in Spanish, right? But it was that, and my parents were awesome. Great people. I love them. They taught me everything. They are the man that I am today. They made me the man I am today. But when it came down to my teens, I was a big sports guy, and that's all that was really the focus of it. But my dad and mom never really put the importance of, if you work hard enough doing that you love, you'll get to this level, right? It was always just, yeah, you go play, but what about
Yeah.
the school stuff? What about
Yeah.
working at my grades so I can get to a certain point, right?
Yeah.
So it got to that, I finished high school, but like we talked before, I became a dad at 19. So I think at that point, my expectation and the things that were put on me were because of my life situation.
Yeah.
So
kind of forced.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, forced, right? I had to become a dad at that moment. I had to become a husband at that moment. Like, all the other stuff had to be put away and move forward with that.
And I love our dynamic, bro, and it's very much why we're here, right?
Yeah.
Because we have such different experiences.
Yeah.
And we want to help people out there become, the right men and women despite their situation.
Correct, yeah.
And so what would you give as advice, bro, in terms of meeting expectations for yourself or whatever it may be, the situation, how to do it in a healthy way?
First and foremost, you spoke on it before, right? God, make sure that whatever you're doing, it aligns with God's word, gives honor to God.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I'd say be patient with yourself, because goals are something that you should really look at and say, this could be something that could be done within 2 or 3 months, and I can get there.
Mm-hmm.
Then once you hit that milestone, then set up another one. Here's another one that I can get to in a month.
That. Yeah.
Boom, hit that.
Yeah.
Not, 10 years from now, I can do this. That's just not what's happening at the moment. At the moment,
1 year from now.
Exactly. Even that, yeah.
Yeah.
What happens at the moment is in the moment. I truly believe, and I'm a big believer in, you live right now, today. So do what you got to do today. Do the best that you can with today. And tomorrow, you're already a step ahead because of how you threw it down yesterday.
And that is an amazing transition into, okay, we opened up with, we're talking about anxiety, right? Where does anxiety come from? Anxiety comes from this worry for the future.
Oh yeah.
This worry that, like, well, I don't know what's going to happen, and that's where, like, that's why I opened up with expectations, because I was like, man, there's this huge expectation put on by myself or someone else, and I don't know if I'm going to get there, or if I don't know if I can live up to it.
Live up to it, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
and that's where that anxiety can come from. And that's where really where I wanted to like zero us in on,
Mm-hmm.
is the sense that anxiety is something out of your hands, really. It's something that you've decided to take something that shouldn't be in your hands, and
Yeah.
that's the future.
Yeah.
And you gave some really great advice, bro. Set goals that are attainable, be patient with yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
put it in God's hands.
Yeah.
I ended up, in this place. I started having a lot of anxiety attacks, bro, during college, because I kept thinking, well, what are they going to think if I don't make it? What are they going to think and it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Because where are you today and what are you doing about it? That should be point zero blank. Like, what do you have in your hands today, and what can you do about it?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, and that comes from being 12 years old to being 50 years old.
Yeah.
What do you have in your hands right now?
Yeah.
And what are you doing about it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's big, man. I mean, I know you mentioned that, but at that time for you, it was a legit issue
Mm-hmm.
because you were out there, like you said, chasing something that you never really set for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You never really wanted to take the leap and do for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even though it was a good thing. Yeah. Right.
Even though they were good things.
You were
yeah.
at a university, man.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody gets to experience things like that. And you
Yeah.
were at New York,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
That's almost a lot of kids' dreams is to do that.
It's literally,
So,
bro.
so it's
Yeah.
it's a big thing. But you recognize that today and say, how can I put this into context so that these young people can understand what I went through
Yes.
and avoid that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I'm pretty sure there was times, like you said, the anxiety kicked in,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's so funny, man, because you checked me on this because I've never been a big focuser on anxiety.
Mm.
I don't think I've ever had anxiety.
That's a blessing, bro.
But
Okay.
when you started asking me
okay.
this stuff,
Uh-huh.
I put myself in a moment and I had to look up what it really means to be anxious, right?
Right.
And I'm serious, man. I was looking at definitions and life scenarios and things like that. And I found a couple in my life, early life. Lately, haven't, thank God, because I think where I am today, it's coming together good. But prior, I could put myself in moments, man, where I was anxious.
Yeah.
And I was having an anxiety attack and didn't know what it was,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And now I see it and I'm like, man, you didn't put so much importance into that for a purpose, and thank God, because you know what would have happened. Who knows what would have happened?
Yeah.
Right? But I remember sitting there in my living room in my first apartment when it happened, because my wife was asleep, my baby was a couple of months old, man. And all I can think about was, I gotta pay rent now. I gotta feed this child. I gotta feed my wife. I'm the man of this house. I'm a provider now. And all these things started coming into my head, man.
Yeah.
And I started like crying.
Yeah.
It was just crying,
Yeah.
weeping, bro, weeping.
Yeah.
And, breathing heavily.
Yeah.
So now that I think about it, that's what was going on, man. You were going through some sort of anxiety
Yeah.
issue, right?
And it's so tough to say, because something as drastic as like having to provide for your family.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell someone, bro, don't worry about it. It's hard to say that.
Yeah.
Or, if what a lot of people don't know about what I was going through as well was, if I dropped out of that school, there was a certain point, I'd owe 200 to 300K if I dropped out,
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, now it's like the intrinsic like values, like if I meet those expectations, but then it became monetary,
Dude, you had all the pressure then.
and it was like, but I don't want to take away from what you were going through, because it doesn't matter the situation or what's at stake.
Yeah.
It's very hard to tell someone, just see what you have in your hands and work with that today, because that is the answer.
Yeah.
But, and we have the secret code too, right? Is that we have the Lord.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's very hard to accept that answer. As many variables as there are up in the air, the answer is always the same.
Yeah.
Just do what you can with what you have in your hands.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Take a moment, pause, really think about
Yeah.
what it is that's rattling you.
Yeah.
And is that gonna make things better?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's awesome because, for everybody watching, we just spoke about one scenario with you and my scenario. And they're completely opposites, right?
So different. Yeah.
But at the end, man, the end result is the same. We were both under pressure that caused anxiety to where we had to make a decision. Either collapse into it or just, like you said, get up, grab it, use it, and move forward.
And the awesome thing is that, he probably had, I would say, he had two other people depending on him. Bronco did. I would like, for you to tell the audience, like, what you took in terms of steps to help you walk out of that moment where you were crying in the living room.
That's deep. I think the awareness of, if I don't do it, then what? If I just throw in the towel and walk out of here, go back to my mom and dad's house, what's that gonna do? But the love I have for them is, unconditional, man. So you really have to be in that spot in your life where caring is a good thing, right? Care for things like that.
That's
right?
really great, bro.
Take pride in that. Care for the things that you're doing, and that's just gonna make it easier for you, right? So yeah, man, I think not giving up, not throwing in the white towel, and loving those people unconditionally. That was my driving factor. Of course, there was times where I got frustrated, like that night, and again, I did it without my wife knowing or seeing me, because that's just the way I felt comfortable. But at the same time, I think it's important for me at that time. It would have been awesome if I would have communicated that to her.
Oh man. And what I'm taking away, just to rewind a little bit, what I'm taking away is you have to know your why.
Mhm.
And your why was your love for your family.
Yeah.
And then the second thing, which is very, very tough, as a man, especially, like, I mean, anyone,
Yeah.
ownership.
Ownership.
If I don't do it, who else is going to do it?
Yeah.
So I have to do it.
Yeah.
And that is an awesome answer, bro. And communication is the last one. And that leads into our next topic, actually, which is speaking out, instead of keeping things in. Sometimes there's like this stigma that as a man, you got to keep it in, just deal with it. There's no like lifeline or like ability to speak and communicate your hurt or your weakness, right?
Like, toughen up, man.
Yeah, tough it up, dude. Rub some dirt on it, bro.
You're a man.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I grew up listening to. That's why I'm telling
Yeah.
you that.
Yeah,
My dad was big time on that.
yeah,
No pasa nada. Ah, don't worry about it. Or get over it. Speaking about it, man, is a big deal. It's a big deal.
we in our culture, right? It's like, or not even talk about it, dude. It doesn't exist.
Just swallow it, man.
Yeah, just like, well, I know there's this tension happening in my home. Are we supposed to like ever talk about this or like, but no, it just grazed over.
That's
Like, what?
That's the worst, man.
Yeah,
you
dude.
just played a picture in my head, man. You took me back again. Like, just
Oh no.
get over it. Oh no.
Yeah.
And then, man, that's a big one, man. That's a big one, and that's something that I struggled with for many years, dude. Many years, just not saying nothing.
Yeah.
That bothered me, but I'll get over it.
Yeah.
Let's put a brave face on. Let's smile. Let's move forward. When inside I wasn't okay,
Yeah.
but I just had to swallow it and just move on.
Yeah. And we wanna touch on this topic because I think actually anxiety and expectations, they can translate into like keeping things in,
Mhm.
And we had very different experiences,
Mhm.
but there was one thing that I struggled with probably more, which was like the sense of anxiety.
Yeah.
And I think what we're gonna talk about next is something that you went through, which was keeping things in.
Yes.
And so talk to us a little bit about it, bro.
So, I've been married 14 years now. I've been with my wife for 20 years. Don't worry, babe. I
Dang,
remembered. I
bro.
remembered.
That is awesome, dude.
Yeah. So, we know each other very, very well. We've
Yeah.
been with each other for more than half of our lives.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
That's awesome, dude.
Love her. Wouldn't change it for anything. It's honestly the best thing in my life. Up until this point, it wasn't always all beautiful. It wasn't always all, what do they call it? Rainbows and butterflies,
Yeah.
things like that. We struggled, right? Because you have two people coming together to create one life, but she has certain tendencies, thoughts, emotions, and I have others. And we have to become one and work together to achieve the ultimate goal, which is to live happy and do the best with what we got. Right. There came a time where I never wanted to inconvenience anybody. I never wanted to, no, I'm not going to ask because, or I'm not going to tell her because it's not worth it. I'll just do it, or I'll pretend like I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But really, I'm not. And that's something that can grow inside of you, man, to a point where it'll destroy a lot of things in your life if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And I went through that, and it almost cost me my marriage because one day I blew up. One day I blew up, and I threw all this stuff at her. And I would, in my mind, I thought, rightfully so, you know?
Right.
This is what you did to me, and these are the things that have frustrated me since then.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it wasn't fair to her. Because
Right.
she's just kind of sitting there like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
Where did all this come from?
Why didn't you had never expressed it before?
Why didn't you tell me in 2012 when it bothered you? What about the 2015 incident? What about this? What about the family gathering? What about that? Why didn't you say nothing then? So that's what it became, man.
Yeah.
And it was as simple as sitting there and recognizing that and saying, man, you need to check yourself and say what you have to say in those moments, right? Of course, gracefully,
and at the right time.
and at the right time, right? There's
Yeah.
a time and place for all that. Not in public, and for whatever reason, but it's something that's very important for anybody out there, is that speaking about what you're feeling and letting out your emotions to those that you trust, right? And those that you know no matter what will shoot you straight is very, very important. You have to do it. I know sometimes, especially like Israel said, as men, it's not in our DNA, right? It's just like, get up, get a grit, and move forward. But speaking about it, I'll tell you from experience, has lifted so much pressure off my life, because I look forward to things like that now, because I want to express that
Mm-hmm.
and hear the feedback,
Right.
you know? And then it becomes a beautiful thing where it's, okay, thanks, babe. Okay, thanks. To anybody.
And you're doing it right now, bro.
Yeah.
You know, you're expressing and you're opening up a door that, you know, I'm very grateful for,
Yeah.
because you're speaking into years of experience and hurt,
Yeah.
and you're just putting it out there.
Yeah.
And that's not easy. It's not, man. So thank you. And
Yeah, man, appreciate that. No,
And-
it is.
I would say too, for someone figuring out their communication balance, I would say if you need those people you open up to, but you only need about 2 or 3.
Oh, yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
This is different. This is literally on a platform, right? Like that's
Yeah.
why it's called, because we want to expand on it and open up our lives to that, because we feel we're in a place we're ready to do that, right?
Of course. Yeah.
But it's not meant to be like that for everybody in like every stage.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's some people that are starting out, and hey, you got to take some time. And I know there's people on the other end of the spectrum and just tell their business to everybody. You know?
Yeah, there's those open books, man. And
Yeah.
I've always looked at those people and how do they do it?
Yeah,
How
it's
do
a
they just
talent,
do it, man? Yeah.
but it can be a weakness, bro. You know?
It's a talent. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
No, but it could be a weakness, because
Yeah.
you're talking to the wrong person, and guess what? It just becomes a bigger issue.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, it opens up a whole can of worms that you didn't mean to.
Yeah.
You're just trying to be honest, and you're like, oh, that person wasn't ready to hear that.
Yeah. Or he said, she told me, she told them,
It turns into that.
and now everybody knows your
Situation.
what you vulnerably said to somebody.
Right.
Right.
And it's a strength, you know, it is a strength to speak out and not keep things in. And but being careful about the time, place, you know, the way you say it.
And to who?
And to who?
That's a big one, dude. When you said that, that's a big one, because, you know, I'm talking about my wife, right? That's the person I live with. That's who I'm doing life with.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, not everybody out there is married, or
Yeah.
right? Not yet. But find that person, right?
Right.
I think I can do that with you now, man.
Yeah,
I
dude.
think I can shoot you a call and be like, hey, man,
Bro.
this is what I think right now, you know? And
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that. But again, people out there, be very, very on guard and think about who you can talk to and do all that stuff, right? But it's true, man. I put it here because to speak out isn't a weakness, but a sign of strength and mental toughness.
Yeah.
And I put that here because that's what I kind of had as a quote for myself, for
Right.
my specific situation.
Right.
After I talked about it, I felt stronger than I did prior.
Yeah.
You know, before it was like I had the wrong type of strength thinking.
Mhm.
Like, I'm strong, so I'm
Tough.
keeping it
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what?
Hard. Hard.
Nobody
like,
can tell
rough.
me nothing. Yeah, like I could deal with this. If I could
Yeah.
deal with this, I could deal with anything.
I got my scars.
You're
like,
right,
you
right.
know?
So whenever it came down to talking about it, even though at that moment I felt super like
Mm-hmm.
wimpy,
Yeah.
you know, but
Yeah.
it felt like a weakness.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, man. It was after the fact, and then hearing the other side of it and coming to agreements, or hearing the, hey, maybe you should think about this, or the advice, right, from that trusted person,
Yes.
it became strength. And honestly, gave me a lot of mental toughness.
Yeah.
A lot of mental toughness in a good way.
That's more of the type of like toughness you want, right? Like where you can hear things that are hard.
Yeah.
And you're not, and you're like, after you've spoken your piece, like then okay, the feedback comes.
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready for it, And the other
Yeah.
thing I wanted to just add, bro, just as we wrap up, okay, now I know I need to speak out, not keep things in.
Mm-hmm.
I would say and highly advise that like texting, this does not apply. I think that if you're trying to talk about something serious and you're texting it, sometimes you do, right? Like sometimes, and that's why I told you that other time. Remember, I'm like, oh, dude, this is deep. Like, I don't want to text it. So,
Yeah.
because sometimes some things deserve that face-to-face conversation, especially if it's conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that's a big one. I applaud
Yeah.
you for that. That's a big one. That's a big one.
But it's because I struggle with that, bro.
So
I
you're the
do.
one that will.
I
boom,
I
boom,
do.
boom, boom?
Well,
Or
recently,
Uh-huh.
in the last couple months,
Mhm.
maybe even years, I've been stepping away from that
Okay.
because I used to
Yeah.
be like, well, I wrote it. It's on paper now. Like
Yeah.
they need to know.
Yeah.
But words, if I say, hey, hope you have a good day, bro, or like, bro, I hope you have a good day, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's a bad example probably, but what I'm trying to say is inflections, like your facial expressions, they matter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they'll bring a whole different message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's big, dude. That's big.
Yeah.
That's an awesome. I like that because I've been on the other end of the text,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not personal at all.
No.
Because you're talking about
Yeah.
your true emotions, your true worries, or whatever it is that you're dealing with. And for it to just be a whoop
Yeah.
and get a message, there's nothing personal about
What's
that.
really behind that?
Yeah, well, does he not care?
Yeah.
Does she not care? And then now you spilt it, and now you feel like you don't have that support.
Right.
So that's super huge, man. Like I love that. I'm a big believer in sitting down and talking until we.
And today nobody wants to do that.
That's tough. Yeah,
That's
that's true, man.
it's
You
tough.
see it
Not
more and more.
nobody, but most people.
Well, you see it more and more. I mean, it's so
Yeah.
easy to pick it up and just send whatever you want. But then on the other end, they might read it differently,
Yeah.
right? They might
For sure.
understand it bad. And then now what was something that could have been fixed now becomes a bigger
A
conflict.
huge issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's big, man.
Dude, that was good, man.
I like that conversation. That was
Yeah.
awesome, man.
That was deep.
We could probably go on for another hour, but
Probably. Yeah.
Love it.
We'll probably touch on it again. Communication's huge, and I think we can touch on it again in terms of marriage, friendships, family. But what we have coming up next is we're gonna have a special guest. We're gonna announce them very soon. Stay tuned, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.